The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Monday, and wow, we got so many things to talk about. I don't even know where to begin, except I gotta say, another shooting. More shots ring out in the city of Fall River. 4th and Plymouth Avenue. Shots again in the early morning hours, around 3, I have been told. And you know, who knows what it is, but I can tell you this weekend we were listening to people from the community talking about one of their issues, and one of the issues was that the gangs at Durfee are threatening people. If they don't join, they're going to stab them. And one of the initiations is to go out and shoot.
Right, and
I don't know if you have to kill anybody yet. I don't know, but the fact is that it's to go out and shoot. So we wonder. But of course, this is Valhalla, and there's no gang problem, and there's no issues, and everything is wonderful, and we're gonna have Streetscapes is gonna cure this. So I just have to get that in. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I think you're very right. I mean, and this is the problem. And you know, I remember during the Lambert administration, it was we have no gangs, we have no gangs.
Yeah.
I mean, we obviously do have gangs, and we need to do something about these gangs. And you know, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we can fix gang problems are across the country. I don't think they're as bad in Fall River as they are in, say, Los Angeles or New York. But I think that we have a problem. And this is why we're seeing an increase in shootings, an increase in crime. I mean, even in my own home, somebody in my home had their cell phone stolen, and the moron that stole it decided he was going to try to sell it, I guess at a pawn shop or something, and got a pair of silver bracelets to take with them. So,
you know, and you're right. And the thing is, look, you can't cure these problems, but you can really control them well. I mean, major cities have controlled, you know, and they can't eliminate, but they have really controlled this to a good. So it's not like reinventing the wheel. And obviously, as you said, the gang problem in Fall River isn't as large, it isn't as well entrenched, and it is not, the gangs haven't grown to the point where they're so large, they're virtually armies. And, you know, but in order to fix the problem, we have to acknowledge the problem, and then we have to deal with the problem. And I know that the police department has a gang unit, and I'm sure it's overwhelmed, and I'm sure they have they know, because they know the players. And what we have to do is make, again, rather than giving people jobs like grant writer and letting them
stay at the Ritz,
letting them stay at the Ritz and rape and pillage the citizens of Fall River, maybe we could look to spending some money on this problem, looking for, I know there's a lot of grants out there, police grants and things like this, and we can look, and we don't need him to write the grant. We can figure out how to get it, because we do have, in fact, a problem. So, you know, this is the whole issue with Fall River. We have a segment of the population, or as you affectionately call them, zombies, who want to pretend this place is just Valhalla. It's the heaven we go to. Like all the Norse warriors used to go to Valhalla. So there's no problems in Fall River. These problems don't exist. Yet I heard with my own ears on Saturday a woman that was just outraged by the fact that her children are being threatened with being stabbed if they don't join a gang. It's mandatory for survival at Durfee.
Well, and you know, this is why I have been a firm supporter and proponent of uniforms in the Fall River school system, because gangs are identified by their colors. And at Durfee, and you know, people say, oh, but then people don't lose their creativity. Well, you know what? They live. They lose their creativity, they lose their self-expression, but they'll live. Maybe it's time that our school department and our school committee seriously say, we're done. It is going to be uniforms across the system. Like it or not, we have them in our elementary schools. I believe we even have them right now in our middle schools. Maybe it's time to roll it out into the high school and say, that's it, we're done, no more. And, you know, I know they have workarounds. They put colors on their backpacks or anything, but make it uniform. Make everything uniform. And this way, when somebody is wearing a red band or a blue band or whatever the case may be, boom, you know what they're doing, pull them out.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you know, and it seems to me a rather simple solution. Let's go back to the way it was when we went to school. You didn't wander over to Dunkin' Donuts across the street to have a coffee. You didn't go over to Newport Creamery, and you didn't stand around with your gang of friends in between. You went from one class to the other. You couldn't hang around on the hallways. The teachers would make you go from one class to another, and you went to class, and at the end of school, you got out of school. And you had to, so if there's no time for these people to congregate and do things. So, you know, that's what I thought school was about. But just like everything else in our society, we pamper all the young children.
Well, it's not only that.
Well, it is. I mean, they have to have time because they're going to get stressed if they can't play on.
Let's not even go there.
They can't play on their phone. They don't have a little time. And, you know, like you said, their creativity. Well, you know something? You can have after-school creativity. You're in school to learn, and you're in school, and we have one of the lowest economic achievement levels in the state. So why don't we just go back to the way it used to be when school was school? You went to school, and you went to class, and you went from one class to the other class, to the other class, to the other, until the final bell rang, and then you left school.
That's right.
And maybe if you were busy, and to quote a very, very old adage, that still is appropriate today as when they first created it back in the colonial era. The fact is that idle hands are the devil's workshop.
Exactly.
So if you don't keep people busy, some of them will manage to get in trouble because everybody is not someone who, if you give them free time, they'll paint a portrait or write a sonnet. Some people, if you give them too much downtime, they'll figure out how to get in trouble.
Oh, well, that's true. That's very true. And they always figure out that they're going to get in trouble. But the problem is, we're looking at our kids in school, and they're playing with their cell phones. You know, Snapchatting and everything else under the sun. And you really can't get the message across to them. You know, that you can't do that to learn. And then you have parents who are like, oh, my child has to have their cell phone because if there's a raid in the school or there's a shooter, they need to be able to get a hold of me. Guess what? If there's a shooter in the school, God forbid, they're not going to be calling you saying, Mommy, Mommy, somebody's shooting in the school. But yes, they do need to have it. But you know what? Let them keep it in their pocket. The phone should not be used while school is in session for Snapchatting, texting, or anything else.
And even for their own good when they become adults.
That's right.
You see them today, and I've had a lot of teachers. I know a lot of teachers. They all tell me that the students today, they're incapable of making eye contact and speaking to people. I mean, I've seen in a restaurant kids sitting at the same table
texting each other.
Texting to each other. Not looking across and saying, you know, what are you going to have for lunch? They're sitting there. I saw 4 kids one time sitting there, and they're texting, and their heads down, and they don't even look at each other, and all they do is text. I mean, so how are you going to perform when you become an adult and have to go out into the real world where you can't text your boss? If your boss walks up to you and you start texting him, you're going to be looking for a new job.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? So, I mean, and they wonder why they have such a difficult time and they can't get out of the house until they're 40 or 50 because they can't function in the real world. So, you know, but I mean, it's tragic that children are going to school to learn and they're being threatened to join gangs, and that this kind of environment exists. And I mean, what's that, the 4th shooting in a week?
Yeah,
A week and a half.
Yeah, four in a week. In a week.
This place is getting like Tombstone.
Yeah.
Read Wyatt Earp. I'm telling you.
We're gonna have a shootout at the OK Corral.
That's it.
Well, they finally passed the budget at the state level.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And the Herald News said no tax increases, but the Mass list, on the other hand, says differently. As expected, the House and Senate approved a new $40.2 billion budget. And that's balanced. Ha ha. Questionable revenue assumptions, a new employer assessment tax. I thought they said no new taxes in the Herald. There's a new employer assessment tax to pay for health care and healthy amounts of duct tape and baling wire. I love that one.
Yeah.
But it's actually sturdier than it looks, according to the Mass Taxpayer Foundation. Analysis of the budget. As for the highlights of the budget, here we go. It includes a new $200 million assessment fee.
Assessment. See, it's not a tax.
It's
only an
assessment fee. But read that as tax on employers to help pay for health care. But it doesn't include any of Governor Baker's proposed Medicaid spending reforms. Reports Priyanka Dayal McCluskey at the Globe. Lawmakers say that they simply didn't have time to review the Medicaid proposals and hope to revisit them soon.
God, that sounds like the mayor. I didn't have time to read the warrants.
Exactly.
It's only taxpayer money. I don't have to read them. So, look, even our state legislators use the same excuse. We didn't have time.
Right.
Well, maybe instead of wandering around a state house, talking to each other, you can actually...
You can read this stuff.
And getting all summer off.
And getting a $105,000 pay raise.
That's true, yeah.
They didn't have time, but they had time to get $105,000.
Okay.
The budget doesn't include the new tax on short-term rental companies like Airbnb. It includes no major tax increases outside the healthcare employer assessment. That's reported by Matt Stout at the Boston Herald.
Which sounds like a really great thing for business. Increase their cost of doing business even more.
Right.
So that and then they're going to complain about the Massachusetts economy being a little stagnant or businesses leaving. Because when you do things like this, they're going to find a new home.
Also, Stout reported that the budget doesn't include draining the state's $13 million horse racing development fund. We don't have horse racing in Massachusetts anymore, but we have that $13 million in the fund still.
But you can bet you can bet you took us that somebody's making money off this and they're employing some people and this money is being promised to somebody somewhere at some time.
Exactly. And lawmakers were forced to knock down available revenues by $733 million, forcing deeper budget cuts and prompting calls for some quarters for new taxes.
Yeah, except I know one thing they didn't cut. Their pay raises.
That's right, they didn't cut their pay raises. Okay. Senate President Stan Rosenberg is calling the fiscal blueprint the harshest state budget since the last recession.
That's right. And Senate President Rosenberg, it was not harsh enough to take your $80,000 new stipend away and your pay raise.
That's right.
So it wasn't that harsh. It wasn't harsh to you and the other state legislators.
And private court-appointed lawyers for the poor are going to have to suck it up again this year, reports the Globe.
Yeah, screw the poor.
Screw the poor.
Screw the poor.
That's right.
And screw the elderly, because we got the little article about no more free classes for elders at UMass.
I was gonna get to that, but while you brought it up now, BCC said, hey, we're not going to handle that. And as many of our viewers know, we do broadcast out of the Bristol Community College studios. Bristol Community College is offering the free classes now to the elders here at Bristol Community College at all campuses. So as long as the course is not full that they want to take, they can take it for free. No fees, no tuition, free. Free means free. Unlike UMass, which said, oh, well, that's a layover from the old system, and we're going to get rid of it. And then when they got such a huge outpouring of hate mail of some type, they turned around and said, well, the people that are currently in the program, we're going to do it, but they're still going to have to pay the fees. The fees are $1,600. Some are higher for graduate courses. So according to Mark Dion, FROED's living like a bum because they're now a tenant. They're a tenant in their building, though, so I guess they're not too much of a bum. But according to the mayor, they haven't even paid the loan on that building. So we're going to have to see that. But you can spend months in court desperately trying to pry a tenant out of your third floor. In that respect, FROED is king of non-paying tenants. Mark Dion's pretty good on this, but FROED's safe for now. But with the Paw Sox looking for a new home, FROED and the Bristol County Chamber of Commerce have both said that they no longer have any authority to recruit or attempt to entice Paw Sox to come to Fall River.
And they're not coming here anyway, 'cause
Yeah.
they're looking at Worcester.
Yeah, and guess what?
And
even if they were going to stop, even take a peek at Fall River, do they want to come to a place where you get shot every couple of days?
Well, yeah. As I said, I know they're looking at the Worcester area, and
Well, they need an area that's easily accessible.
right.
And really, what's Fall River going to do for them? You know, I mean, granted, Fall River, it does have easy accessibility, but where are they going to put them, in the biopark? Because you're talking about a huge area, and you're going to need a lot of parking. There's not a lot of space. Well, actually, there is a lot of space in Fall River. The problem is nobody wants to develop it. So this is what's going to make it happen, kind of interesting. So obviously, as you know, the longest-serving city councilor, the Chow Mein King, is coming back to try to make a run for city council. You know, no matter how much you got it, these political whores keep coming back for another bite at the trough. But, you know, as we said when Leo was voted out of office some time ago, at least he was honest about it. He said, I may be out of the city council, but I'm going to get a job in government anyhow, and he did. He got a job driving the van for the veterans office, and he's not even a veteran. I guess they couldn't find any veterans that have a driver's license and can drive. I mean, I don't know.
well, as you said, one thing about Leo, you know, he does, you know, he does good constituent service. He's always, people love him. He gives them a great chow mein sandwich or a ham and bean dinner, and he, you know, he basically doesn't, you know, he doesn't make any bones about it. He's not like
Right.
some of these people who try to cover the fact that, look, he's in it for the money.
That's right.
And he doesn't make any bones about it. He says, I've been on a public dole for years. I've been on the
And I'm gonna
council,
stay there.
And I'm staying there. Even if
That's
when
right.
they booted him out of the council, like you said, he made it clear. Hey, don't worry about it. I'll find another government gig.
That's right, and
You
he
know,
did.
And he did. And
Yeah.
he,
But,
so-
but you see, this is why Fall River is in the position it's in. We're a dump. We're a cesspool. We're a crap hole because the people, you the voters, I'm looking right at you the voters. You keep electing these people who are honest about the fact that they're just trying to screw the taxpayer. Really, and you want to keep doing that. I don't know.
well, you know, a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about Leo's constituents.
No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Leo was the
saying,
best city
but, I mean,
councilor.
but the fact is that, look, people make it, but it's up to the people to hold people accountable for their positions on issues, and this is why we have the problems that we have. And look, I think that every councilor and every candidate, as I said, should be voted on based on what their position is in regard to treating everybody in Fall River equally and having some sympathy for the taxpayers.
Nah.
We have been
Why do you
now
wanna do
for the
that?
last decade, it has become automatic that we get a maximum increase in taxes. They increase the fees every year, and there's absolutely a total disregard for the taxpayers in
Right.
a community that doesn't have the money to do this. They're driving people. I had an elderly gentleman tell me that he's on the verge of losing his house, and his house has been paid for years. That he's on a fixed income. His income doesn't go up. It's not. He doesn't get a $30,000 a year pay raise. He might get a $300 a year pay raise if he gets any pay raise at all, and that $300 is absorbed by health care increases and increases in gas and heat and electricity. It's long gone. He's in a deficit at the beginning, and then his city continues to increase and increase. And look, I'll be the first one to say, there are sometimes you have to raise taxes because you have to, you know, there are things that are necessary to provide services to the community. But after you get by those necessary services like public safety to protect our city, which you can see what the city is, and there's not enough money being put into that, educating our children, because if they're educated, maybe they can get a job. But then we've got to cut all the fat out of the budget. Remember years ago, people used to, that was a catchphrase when they ran for office. I'm going to cut the fat out of the budget. We're going to have a lean government. No waste. Nobody sitting up there getting paid for doing nothing or little, or very little. But that's been gone for years. Now it's like, I need a chief of staff, I need this, I need that. I need all kinds of help to run a government.
I need a press secretary.
I'm so busy, I can't even read the warrants.
That's right.
That's how busy I am. I got all this help, and I can't even read the warrants. I got people to read the warrants, so I got to trust them. Well, guess what? The buck stops there.
That's right.
Remember that. Harry Truman was right. You are the mayor. You know, you are the captain of the ship. And if taxpayer money is being wasted, guess what? Whoever put together that warrant and who had the job to look at it and gave it to you and said this is okay, should be terminated.
Kathy Ann Viveris, Christian Gupta, Dr. Henry Valancourt. They're the ones that approved it. So 1, 2, 3, and then the final signature was the mayor's.
The process is broken.
The process is broken.
Nobody cares about the taxpayer, as you know, as is shown on a state level, and here. They get their pay raises, they get their jobs for their friends, and as we've said numerous times on this show, we go back to the Carlton Viveris administration back in the Stone Age. He ran a city that had a fire department that had 100 more men than it's got now, a police department that had 100 more men than they've got now, you know, a DPW that was 10 times the size of what we got left here. And all he had was a secretary.
That's all that was in that office, one secretary, that's it.
He didn't have a chief of staff. He was the mayor. He didn't have a city administrator. That was created later on during his tenure. He did create that position. He didn't have a city administrator. He didn't have half the help that we have now. There were no assistants to the assistants to the assistants. And amazingly enough, we not only ran the city, we had people working, we had stores, restaurants, and a $12 million surplus. And I remember those days because I used to have to fight for a contract that they wouldn't give me any money, even when they had a ton of money. So the fact is, you know, all these jobs, it's like, I remember Sam Sutter getting up there and saying, I don't have enough help. Really? You don't have enough help? Why not? Every single department in this city has a department head that's getting 6 figures or nearly 6 figures. And it's their job to run each individual department. So what do you really got to do except call those people in and say, what's going on in your department? Have a meeting. Say, okay, everything going well? Yep, I want to report every week. What's going on, expenditures, et cetera. Then we'll have the financial look. No, I need an assistant. I need a press secretary. I need, what you really mean is you want to build a re-election committee so your only job as mayor is to campaign for re-election, not do any work. That's what that means. So taxpayers, remember that. When people are running for mayor and city council, if they're going to continue to support a council that's going to give out $30,000 pay raises and create jobs to do virtually nothing, or create jobs to duplicate what's already being done, I mean, how many drug intervention programs do we have? State, federal,
local,
and then we create one for his buddy, you know, and then his buddy gets a grant when they wouldn't do that, and then now we create that thing in the FOIA, which is doing nothing but directing people to where they know they're going anyway. I mean, this is why they never stop taxing you. And if you put a check mark next to anybody who says that he's not going to look at he or she is not going to look at every expenditure with a magnifying glass, and they will not support any expenditures except for essential services like public safety, well, guess what? Tell them to go pound tar. They're not getting your vote. That's the only way we're going to stop this insanity.
Well, I agree. And, you know, I put the hashtag out there this weekend. Vote them all out. It's time to clean house. And I don't care how much you like your guy. You complain about it, but your guy causes the problem. Guess what? It's time for your guy to go. Anybody who's been on the city council or the school committee for more than 2 terms needs to go. Because they've obviously haven't done anything in umpteen number of years. And look at Leo. For 29 years, he was on the city council, and nothing changed. As a matter of fact, under his control, it got worse. And remember, the city councilor is only 1 vote.
That's right.
Only 1. 1 of 9. So unless that 1 person can get the other 8 on his side, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and if you believe, like, you know, city council, that's saying, well, if they've been on, you got to look at their voting record.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if they're voting,
they all voted for the pay raises. Let's get real.
If they vote for the pay raises, it was the wrong vote for the taxpayers of the city.
That's right.
And that's just the way it is. And the fact is that, listen, and I know that you had quite the exciting repartee over the weekend. You know, I'm probably butchering the English language by saying repartee.
Well, yeah, we've been told we butcher the English language. So.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll take a vocabulary course with test with that person anytime, and I'll bet you I'll win.
Yeah, I'm sure you will too.
I'll buy them a free dinner if they can beat me on a vocabulary test. But the fact is that that person was saying how it's negative and fake news. And bottom line is, it's not negative to point out facts. I hate to tell you this. But when we say there's been 4 shootings,
there's 4 shootings.
We're not making it up. We're not being negative. When we say that the UK said we're the 38th worst city in the country to live in, it's not negative. It's news. It's a fact. That's what USA Today made us the 5th worst city. I mean, if you think this city is wonderful, you should come to some of these things that I go to where we have to listen to people whose children are being threatened with stabbing and being murdered if they don't join a gang, where people are afraid to walk out their front door. I don't know where you live in this city, but I can tell you one thing. You're not safe. You may think you are.
Right.
Now, I live on a residential street, and there was a drug deal on my street the other night. I saw a car at the top, people at the 2 young girls at the end. Then I saw that car pull up, hand it through the window, and then he drove off, and they walked off. So there's no neighborhood safe, nothing safe.
No.
And if you believe that this is being negative rather than looking at a problem, and the only way we can fix it is by acknowledging it, well, it must be really dark and quiet in that place where your head is residing right now.
Oh, exactly. Well, but before we run out of time, because we're almost out of time here, Swansea added a Fall River face to the administration. We're going to talk about parity here real quick. Jordan Remy was hired out of a field of 360 applicants for a job in Swansea. He has a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's in criminal justice. He's working, and he worked as a policy analysis. Town Administrator John McCullough said he and Selectmen initiated the process about 6 months ago to expand a second administrative assistant position from part-time to 40 hours a week. Guess how much he's getting paid? Talk about parity here. How much is he getting paid? To be a secretary, the Fall River one just got a big bump in pay. $41,000. $41,000.
Well, and most of the people we have are part-time, and they're getting full-time salaries.
Exactly.
So, but
you can't make it up.
No, and like I said, it's not fake news if it's a fact. So,
that's right.
Get over it, and we'll see you on Wednesday, and stay angry, everybody.
Stay angry, and remember, keep your eyes open. Call the cops once in a while. Have a great day.